game of first guess. Let's try and predict the future of a few players in the NFL. The Colts have given quarterback Anthony Richardson permission to seek a trade. Louis Riddick, give me a first guess on what would be a good place for him to go.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know people are going to sit and go, well, why? They have Patrick Mahomes. He's going to come back from ACL injury. They don't need a backup quarterback. No, Anthony Richardson needs Kansas City. I've seen Andy Reid do this before. I've seen him take people who people had kind of like thrown out, like Michael Vick, and he just rehabbed the guy and wound up, the guy wound up having a resurrection and having like a second act to his career. That's exactly what Anthony needs. He needs that structure down there. He needs that quarterback room. I think in 2027, then, you will get the best version of Anthony Richardson if he can get to a place like this first. It's
an interesting concept. Mike Tannenbaum said a different team, Minnesota, same kind of basic idea, though. Go give Anthony Richardson a chance to do what Sam Darnold did, sit somewhere and learn, and then get a chance to come back. He's certainly young enough to do it. Let's move forward. Mike T, give me a first guess on what's going to happen with George Pickens and the Cowboys this offseason.
He is going to sign a one-year deal on the franchise tag sometime after Labor Day. That is a mortal lock. That is going to happen because this is an incredibly difficult deal to get done. The Cowboys are going to say T. Higgins, $28.7 million a year, highest paid second receiver. George Pickens is going to say, did you see my production? I want $40 million a year at Jamar Chase. Micah Parsons was easy a year ago. That never got done. This is an impossible deal to get done on a multi-year basis.
So Pickens winds up playing on the franchise tag, and that isn't particularly cap-friendly. Tannenbaum, then let me come to, Dan Graziano, let me come to you, because there's been a lot of talk here about the future of A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. You're there where all the decision makers are gathered. What are you hearing about his future?
Yeah, based on what I'm hearing, my best first guess is that he's on the Eagles in 2026. Now, you have to hedge. You're talking about the Eagles. You're talking about Howie Roseman, who loves to make deals, who's not going to turn down any kind of conversation if it might help the team. You come calling with a first-round pick or some kind of offer that would blow them away, I certainly think they'll consider it. But I did not get the sense from my conversations here this week that the Eagles are out there eager to move on from A.J. Brown or out there dangling him in trade offers. Possible, sure, but it seems like they are of the mind that they would rather him be on the team in 2026.
And I'll say this, Louis Riddick and I are of a similar mind when it comes to his future. I was watching a video of you on a show the other day, Louis. You were saying almost exactly the same things I've been thinking. What is your sense of A.J. Brown and what needs to happen here?
Look, they just need to – it just seems like they need to go their separate ways here. Look, there's just too much smoke around this situation all the time. It just seems like, A.J. is constantly feeling as though maybe he's not being utilized properly. He just seems like someone who would be much happier with a different offensive system, with a different quarterback in a different environment. Philadelphia then – look, I know that no team is in the business of giving up high-profile players, highly productive players, highly explosive players that can change games around, in a moment's notice. And that's what A.J. Brown is. But at some point in time, you have to kind of balance collecting talent and building teams. If you're going to talk about culture and talk about, having a building that's healthy and having a building that is all just kind of rowing in the same direction, pulling in the same direction, and everyone has a similar mindset, then sometimes you have to act upon that and you have to make tough decisions. And this is kind of like one of those situations where I feel like that's where basically it needs to go. Now, I may be wrong. He may be on the football team in 2026. They may say, hey, look, we're not going to give, fair value for this young man on the trade market, so we're going to keep him here regardless of how it looks from the outside. But I think we all know that this is something that probably would benefit both teams if they moved on.
I feel the same way. Mike T, I got 15 seconds. What do you think?
I totally agree with you guys. And the ideal spot is the Buffalo Bills. Trade him for the 26th pick of the draft. He's the outside receiver they need. This draft is loaded with receivers, guys. Philly gets a new guy on a rookie deal.
Yeah, Buffalo, New England. We have the Chargers.
Just the Ohio State defensive players, what they did yesterday in Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese. They put on workouts for the ages, and as it relates to, some of the teams here, New York Jets, Arizona Cardinals, New York Giants, they're going to be looking at some really interesting options. And again, I think Sonny Styles had the 17th best vertical jump in the history of the combine at 245 pounds. And, and traditionally you wouldn't be talking about taking a middle linebacker that high, but the tape, the character, the workout, it's all there.
Mr. T, Arvell Reese is a physical freak show. He had a great performance as well. He's played off the ball. He's played on the ball. He's on the record at the Combine saying that he likes them both equally. What does he project as at the next level? If you're taking him with the top pick, which is presumably what you'd have to do in this year's draft, who is he in terms of the pro comp that you could use to justify picking him as high as he's going to go?
Yeah, and this may be unfair to him, but, Micah Parsons was a similar player at Penn State where Micah Parsons played a lot of off the ball. He was a great pass rusher, and obviously he's on a Hall of Fame, trajectory. So, look, Reese could do it all, and I think he's going to be a great player. I think he go as high as number 2.
Micah Parsons. Oof.
Yeah. Great comp. Well, Mike T, let's talk about some of the storylines that are coming about potential deals that are out there. The Colts have given Anthony Richardson Sr. permission to seek a trade. What do you think the market will be like for him, and where would you like to see him ultimately land?
If I was Anthony Richardson, who's turning 24, Michelle, I would walk to Minnesota and say, hey, I want to get my master's degree in quarterback play from Tim and O'Connell, and how much do I have to pay tuition to go there? He has incredible talent. He has such a long runway because he's so young. I mean, there's players in this year's draft that are older than Anthony Richardson, and he's played in 17, started 15 games in the NFL. And, if I was talking to him, like, let's take the long view of things. And, we've seen Baker Mayfield, number of teams, Sam Darnold, a number of teams. And if I'm him, where can I go get coached and developed? And to me, that would be Minnesota.
Mike T, I will challenge you on this one a little bit. I totally agree with the idea of Anthony Richardson going to QB school. I totally agree with that. The problem I have with him going to Minnesota is I think there's a chance he would play. And I don't believe that he should be in a situation where he has a chance to play. I think he needs to sit and learn. And I think Indy screwed that up. What about the idea of him not going somewhere where he has a chance to play, or going somewhere where he has no chance of playing, like a Buffalo or a Baltimore or somewhere like that?
Yeah, well, J.J. McCarthy's online too, Mr. Cohen. He'd like to have a word with you.
That's fine.
So,
I'd like to talk to him and find out what happened last year when healthy.
Yeah, well, look, at some point, Anthony Richardson's going to have a chance to get back on the field. I understand your point, but knowing J.J. McCarthy the way I do, he's a world-class competitor, and, I don't think he's just going to indiscriminately give away that starting job. So I understand your point, but, to look for a third-string situation, I'm not as convicted in that, and, we'll see how it plays out. But I understand your point. He does need to be developed, and, hopefully it just sets him up for a great next, phase of his career. We're
talking with Mike Tannenbaum, ESPN NFL Front Office Insider here on Unsportsmanlike, presented by Progressive Insurance. What team do you think A.J. Brown will be on next year?
I keep saying the Buffalo Bills, 26th pick in the draft. Who says no? He gets a fresh start. Obviously, it's been noisy and bumpy in Philadelphia. Buffalo needs a number 1 receiver on the outside. They get the 26th pick. I think it's a total win-win. Philly resets with a younger wide receiver, which this draft has a ton of. Buffalo desperately gets the player they need.
Mr. T, yesterday on Get Up, our very own Dan Orlovsky said some things that were very interesting when it comes to his breakdown of the tape between Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson. He said he was more impressed with the first half of the season from Ty Simpson than he was Fernando Mendoza. Do you agree with that evaluation? Where are you at with both of the 2 top quarterbacks in this class?
Yeah, and just to clear things up here, and I don't want to put words in Dan's mouth, I think what he meant there was he's not taking Ty Simpson before Mendoza, and certainly I wouldn't do that. I think what I would say is I think Simpson's tape is probably better than people think. I've been talking to some people from Alabama who are out here in Indy. Simpson had a whole bunch of things that he was dealing with, injuries and other things. Obviously, the whole team didn't play well in the Rose Bowl. That's pretty obvious. So to be Fernando Mendoza, clearly the best quarterback in this draft, unquestionably, and Ty Simpson's probably better than people think, and I think both those things can be true.
Mr. T, the NFLPA had the 2026 report cards released. The Dolphins finished first. The Steelers finished in last place. Obviously, with the Dolphins getting that first place, being put in first place, they don't have the team success. So how should we read into what these report cards are telling us about how these teams are being graded?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's hard for me to comment on that because I've never had the best report card in anything in my life, so it's very hard for me to relate to that. But no, no surprise. I had the privilege of working for Steve Ross, who always gave, incredible resources. And, there's other factors that go into that, which starts with, ownership support, which is there. And then, of course, the weather, no state income tax, practice on grass, play on grass. Like, those things matter to players. And when you talk to them and listen to them, those things are important. So, again, not surprised that Miami finished first.
We're talking with Mike Tannenbaum, ESPN NFL front office insider here on Unsportsmanlike, presented by